Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we have a very special episode because somebody is a winner, chicken dinner, of our Oscar movie wager. And Sarah, you have picked quite a 1995 film for us to talk about today as part of your winning spoils.
Yes. Jen, I would like you to make note. This is how you use your winning the Oscar movie wager for good. Please take note.
I'm going to find some other Lizard Man movie claymation next, just so you can be re-triggered again next time when I win.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I will continue to hang these things above your head because you keep using your powers for evil.
Oh, it's so good. Listen, I know this would not be voluntary choices from you, so I had to use the very moment that I have.
It's true.
But thank God you are a far more generous and kind.
I have not forced you to watch a musical. So
true.
are welcome, because there's quite a few that I would like to force you to watch, and I have not done that.
You've racked up some good karma. Good things are coming your way soon in this lifetime. Me, on the other hand, so far I'm getting away scot-free because we're getting to review Heat today. Yes. This has been on my radar for a good while now, and just once again, never enough time, never gotten around to review it, but this is also timely because there's lots of fun buzz and excitement about Heat 2, star-studded cast that's coming soon. I believe they're starting production this year, and so they're estimating it'll come out in 2027 or 2028, so this is quite timely for us to revisit this 1995 film.
Yes. Yep. So we will be in the know once that finally comes out.
Yes. All right. So, Sarah, do you want to kick us off with an IMDb summary for Heat?
Sure. A group of high-end professional thieves start to feel the heat from the LAPD when they unknowingly leave a verbal clue at their latest heist.
All right. So, one sentence summaries for Heat. Sarah, what is yours?
Yes, mine is 30 seconds can change your life.
Yeah, very good, very good. My one sentence summary is, for me, the action is also just the juice.
Nice. Yes.
All right, so let's dive in. We both have not seen Heat yet. So for the very few of you out there that have also not seen Heat yet, somehow here in 2026, we will include a high-level review section here and then give a spoiler alert. So this is a film that should not be spoiled, and I'm so glad we somehow made it out this far without having been spoiled too much for both of us. But Sarah, what is your high-level thoughts, your review of Heat?
Yeah, this movie is just a ton of fun. You know, you have Al Pacino and Robert De Niro at the height of their powers. Great performances from both of them. A very unhinged Al Pacino performance, which I very much enjoyed. And then all of the iconic moments. The diner scene is as incredible as it was billed to me. So yeah, just a great action adventure, an interesting cat and mouse business going on, which we absolutely love. There are some things about the female characters that I would like to talk about once we get into spoilers, because I have some qualms. But on the whole, a really fun time. I very much enjoyed this movie.
Yes, I loved this movie. Love me a film about criminals doing criminal things and outsmarting each other. But also, these criminals are so likable. There is no villain, really. And they've got angst, they've got family things that they're working through, and to their core, you know that they're just looking to survive in the ways that they only know how. And gosh, isn't that something to root for? So I love to root for a flawed criminal. What I'm most impressed about with Heat, which I did not expect, is just how much meat and substance there is in the themes of this film. While this is a film that is an incredibly slick crime thriller, there's actually a lot in here around family dynamics and morality and purpose and these universal human themes that are quite richly explored, which I did not expect from a film like this that was marketed in this way and has a reputation to be just like a slick crime thriller. Didn't expect to have so much to sink my teeth into. So I loved those aspects of this and was quite impressed by that.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot here. There's more depth to this film than I expected from, a 1995 action thriller.
Yeah.
But there is a lot here. So it's so much fun to like look at and go on the ride, but
Mhm.
there's also depth to these characters, which you don't always get in an action movie.
Yeah, truly, this is a character study of two opposing character types. And that character study is truly rich enough to be a character study and not just stand ins for plot and action and spectacle. The other thing I'll praise about Heat is the action set pieces are stellar, incredibly shot, sound design operating at the highest caliber, the use of silence, the use of light and shadow, the use of camera movement and pacing is operating at just the top of the top. So I really get it now. And that was quite incredible to see.
I think another thing that surprised me about Heat is that it still really holds up. Like I was shocked because sometimes you go back and you watch action movies that are a couple decades old and you're like, "Ooh, that hasn't aged super well." But I think on the whole, this is still solid. It's still a really good time. The action still looks good too. So just shout out to Michael Mann and the entire team for creating something that has really like stood the test of time over, the ensuing decades.
Yeah, I was quite impressed by that as well. It looks, like you mentioned, incredible. And I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that they didn't use a lot of big, flashy, technology enhanced visuals to add to a bigger spectacle. It's quite grounded, and a lot of the action sequences, the shootouts, they're not big adrenaline pumping things where you would need enhancements from something like CGI, AI, and post production. It's the adrenaline is all in the camera work and the sound design, truly, and the pacing, and I think that's quite incredible. So, so good.
And like you mentioned, the characters, like we are invested in these characters, we care about these characters. So when they are in these climactic, dramatic moments, we are invested in who they are as people. And we want them to come out of this, even though they are criminals. But we love criminals. We love criminal movies. So this is great.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, if you haven't seen Heat, we're diving fully in. This is your spoiler alert. It's been many, many years, so decades. Um, be like us. Close the movie history gap. Uh, this is well worth it, and it's a ton of fun. So, a good watch. All right. So, where should we dive in first? What's one of the big things that Heat chooses to do that was most intriguing to you?
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the really interesting parts of this film is the ending. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good and it takes, your conventional what you expect from an action movie and it kind of turns it on its head. And I love the way that that ending sequence, when Pacino is chasing De Niro. I love how that is all paced, how that is all shot. It like we were just speaking about the technical pieces of this film are absolutely fantastic. And you see that on full display in that ending little cat and mouse kind of chase sequence. And then, of course, Neil being shot, Neil being killed in that moment is so dramatic. It's so fitting for the film and what it's trying to say. I loved everything about that ending. I felt so satisfied with that end.
That cat and mouse sequence was geniusly done. Oh my gosh, it was delicious. And it breaks the convention of a huge shootout that you would expect that has a lot of yelling, a lot of coordination with the different teams. It's actually just between two lone men, and it feels like the ending of a western in a lot of ways, where it's just the good guy and the bad guy out in the desert somewhere, and only one will leave alive. And the way that, gosh, the use of silence during that sequence is done. I could hear myself breathing heavily during that entire sequence. And what I also really love, in addition to the use of silence, is how we often talk about in action sequences. It's valuable to know where everyone is, to build tension. This breaks that a little bit in the first section of that quiet chase, because we don't know where either of them are. We are trying desperately to piece together where they are in relation to each other, and that allows us to then put ourselves in the shoes of both of them, to be like feeling the anxiety and the paranoia and the adrenaline of hearing every footstep, waiting to hear every leaf crunch, to try and find the placement of the person that's trying to kill you. And I love that for a good few minutes, we as the audience are also not in the know, which typically we are. And typically that's what makes a great action sequence, is that we know where everyone is and how they're going to collide with each other. In this case, we're actually flying blind too. And so all of my senses were heightened as a viewer to try and figure out, oh my God, where are they in relation to each other?
The other thing that I loved about that is the constant passing of planes overhead. And just every time you'd hear one go, I was like, is that his plane? Oh, is that his plane? Like there were just so many of them constantly passing over. And I thought that that was so genius because if we're thinking that, oh, he's lost his escape route, he knows that he's lost his escape route. And so without any dialogue, without telling us any information, we know what Neil is thinking and feeling in that moment. And so we understand his choices at the end. So I thought that that was a brilliant way to show us what's going on without having to give us any dialogue at all.
Yeah, yeah. And what the plane sequence, the plane continuously running over the course of that sequence does too, is uh, the sound design of that. Like, we cannot hear footsteps anymore when the planes are coming over, flying over, and so that is prime windows of time where your foe could be changing position and be right behind you, and you could have no idea because you couldn't hear, because of the roar of the engine. And they both are moving and changing their locations as the planes are going overhead. And I love how what the film does ultimately is show that it's the shadow from the light of the plane that is the tell, that is the signal that tips off Hannah to ultimately know where the location of Neil is. And it's not actually the sound that played the biggest role. So there's a little bit of a fun fake out of what tactical detail of the plane flying over will be used by either of them to get the upper hand. And for Hannah, it's the shadow. So good.
And I think the other thing that makes it so satisfying is for the past 2 hours, we have been following these two
Yeah.
people who are both so detail oriented, so good at their respective jobs, and honestly, their jobs are the only things that they have, and we trust them both, and we've seen the way that they are truly foils to one another, and so when they are in that final chase, we know that they are equally matched. And
Yeah.
that just makes it all the more satisfying.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. We trust the competence of a balanced fight between two foes, and that's really fun for us to watch. The other thing that's really emotional about that ending sequence, which I didn't expect to feel so much, is because we've spent now 3 hours following these two men who have now lost literally everything in their life. The stakes of this showdown feel incredibly weighty because it's the thing that they've given everything for. It's either the freedom that Neil will finally be able to have, free from this life of crime, to run off into the sunset with his girl, who probably won't take him back now because he left her and abandoned her. But it's the promise of freedom. And for Neil, it's no, I mixed that up. Yes, for Hannah, Al Pacino's character, it's like, was it all worth it to give up his stable life, to give up his family to fight crime? Like, will he be successful, and will he be able to swallow the costs of, I still didn't get that guy and I gave up everything for it? And so I feel like seeing how much both of these men have given to be in this moment, I'm like, gosh, I'm not rooting for one or the either, truly. It almost feels tragic that they've been stripped bare of everything and all they have is this one moment to earn something for themselves, to be like, okay, it was all worth it, I guess. And even then, there's something empty about that too.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes the ending of this so brilliant is that it does feel tragic. It's not this
Mhm.
triumphant, I got the bad guy, I saved the day. Like it really is kind of a heartbreaking tragedy at the end of the day because, I mean, they have lost everything. He did take a life of this guy that he understood and connected with in a weird way. And so, again, without dialogue, without words, all of that is communicated to us as the viewer. And I loved this ending. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
It also is such a like 90s liftoff in the end too. Like, the film ended and I was like, oh, that's really sweet. Like, which I didn't expect to have that feeling at the end of Heat, you know? And so you'd mentioned in our conversation off the mic that a lot of people were comparing Heat to Crime 101. And throughout a lot of this film, I was like, no, Heat is so much better than Crime 101. We get to the ending of Heat, and I'm like, oh, I see now. It's that feel good ending that we get left with at the end of this long journey. But it has this hopeful optimism about the connection that is possible between human beings that are on opposite sides of the fence that is like quite heartwarming and quite refreshing here in 2026, where so many films are so cynical. Like, oh, this was from the 90s for sure.
Absolutely. And I now understand the comparisons between Heat and Crime 101, and obviously Heat is much better than Crime 101.
Mm-hmm.
But I I'm amazed at how well this 1995 movie holds up.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was ready for this to be a good movie because it's so well regarded in the movie sphere,
Yeah.
but I was also like, is this going to be a disappointment because this came out 30 years ago?
Right.
Uh no, it is not. And
Mm-hmm.
that's so satisfying.
You never know if it's just nostalgia. Like, oh, I watched this when I was like a preteen growing up in the 90s, and this is the thing that our friends threw on a Friday night. I love Heat, and there's the nostalgic rose-colored glasses glow of a lot of the old films that we all love that have also entered into like pop culture fabric. But standalone, this is an incredible film. If this came out today, it would be amazing. Like, it's so technically well done, and like we mentioned, the story is so rich. So what are some of the other moments in Heat that really were operating on the highest caliber to you?
I mean, the diner scene is, of course,
Yes.
incredible when they get
100%.
coffee together. Even like the setup to that of, he pulls him over and he's like, "You want to go get a cup of coffee?" Not at all what one would expect when the detective pulls over the criminal that he's been chasing. And then again, this just, you got Pacino, you got De Niro, both of them phenomenal actors in their own right, and they're just clashing in that scene in just such fantastic ways. So I think for me, there's a lot of like really tense moments throughout the film. There's very action packed moments throughout the film. But for me, that scene in the diner is the best part of the movie for me, because there's so much going on and it's just these two actors doing their thing. And it's riveting. You can't look away.
Yeah, and I think what's also striking about that scene is it's oddly very vulnerable. Like, shocked. I was shocked to see both of them speak from the heart in a way that you wouldn't ever do between a cop and a criminal, but there's clearly this mutual respect that they oddly have for each other, and an understanding of the mentalities that both of them have in order to live the life that they do. They understand that they're both loners, that they are separated from a lot of their core relationships, that they have this disdain for living an ordinary conventional life. In fact, they could never, because the way they are wired is far too restless to just settle down, have the family in the burbs. Like, there's this sense of kindred spirits that are meeting in that diner scene. And then for the rest of the film and everything leading up to that film, they are never together. They never interact until the very end. And I love that there is this sense of like telepathic spidey senses that they have with each other as well. There's a whole scene later on in the film where Hannah is talking about how he knows roughly and can intuit the number of hours that Neil's still going to be around. Oh, I'll give him like 7 or 8 hours. I know that he is near. I can sense his presence. And so that like strange connection that they seem to have, we buy it and we believe it, partially because of the strength of the performances too, of that unspoken connection.
And also being set up by I love it when Hannah and the cops are trying to do surveillance on Neil and the crew, and they're at that like abandoned area with like the electrical stuff, and there's nothing anywhere around them to steal. And it was
Yeah.
just a trap that Neil set to, so that he could see who is after him. And that moment that they both recognize who they're dealing with, they might not know details, they might not know who exactly this person is, but they get the vibe, and that's all that they need to go, oh, this is a different level of person than I thought that I was dealing with. So that mutual knowing starts then, and then we see in the diner scene like, oh yeah, they are more alike than maybe they had originally thought.
Yeah, exactly. There's a someone at the same old way of thinking and operating as me. How thrilling, how exciting. Let's play ball. Which makes that ending once again far more tragic, because the look in both of their faces is, we know it has to be this way. And this is just the rules of the game, which they talk about so explicitly in the diner scene of like, yo, we the same, but like, if I got to put you down, I will not hesitate. And there's a matter of factness that they both know this is just how the world works. They're on two sides of the court right now, so this is just how it has to be. But there's a look in their eye at the ending in that scene where they're just like, sorry man, but hold my hand.
Right? It was so cute. Like, oh, they're holding hands.
Good.
That's so sweet. You did just murder this guy, but then you held his hand. That's very nice.
Yeah, yeah. uh I thought one of the things I was thinking a lot about during this film, and the diner scene really like started the thought train, is just the depiction of criminals in media, and how this kind of multifaceted, layered view of a criminal that's trying to protect their crew, but also do their job with professionalism, but also balance the personal dynamics they have in their life, is quite refreshing and nice to see. I think a lot of times we get a film like this with criminals that are either like incredibly gritty and focused solely on amassing as much power or control as they can, or money or funds. Or there's almost this like slick, cool, confident, like aspirational way of depicting a criminal as well. You know, you've got the like the James Bonds, the Ocean's Elevens, a lot of like mafia films. Like you kind of want to be like them. And Heat has a very measured view, a very grounded, measured, balanced view of what it takes to live this life. And they're incredibly competent. So there's something aspirational about that there. But then they really deal with quite a heavy cost. And Heat almost is just allowing that to be shown in a balanced way instead of leaning too far in any of the directions of like, look how cool this is. Don't you want to be like them? Or look how terrible they are. And Heat's kind of like, here's what it is. It's a very matter of fact way of depicting the life of a criminal, which I think is quite fascinating. It's very humanizing, but also quite tragic at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. We contain multitudes, and so do criminals. And that
Mm-hmm.
is what we've learned from Heat. But I do love that this film takes that like wider lens, and we get to
Mm-hmm.
see not just, you know, the thief and the cop, but we get to see their families and kind of how they're living their lives and what their homes look like and what they do in their free time. Not that they have very much because their work is or their lives are all about their jobs, but I appreciated that little bit wider scope that we get in this film to really humanize these characters as opposed to just having them be these like two-dimensional characters that only do this one thing. Even though Neil and Hannah are all about their jobs, we see the cost of that in their lives, and I think that that's really valuable in a film like that, and sets the stakes for everything else that we see throughout the course of the film.
Yeah, we've seen that archetype, especially of Hannah's character of the homicide detective that is rough and hardened by his line of work, that's a loner, cannot keep a relationship, is like dedicated his life to this line of work. Jimmy McNulty from The Wire, a great example of like has given everything for this. And there's something really tender about seeing Hannah kind of fighting to find a way to make it work. You know, there's that whole conversation that Pacino's character has with Justine around sharing and like giving the leftovers over. And hey, like you told me that you would share this life with me. What happened? And Pacino talks about like having to hold it in to channel the angst so that he can stay sharp. And I feel like it's really refreshing to see a character that's in the early phases of trying to find a way to make it work. And well, I think the stereotype we often get is later down the line of what Hannah's perhaps eventual end state will be, which is hardened, alone, cynical, emotionally unavailable. But he's not that here. The way he rescues Lauren at the end, like his heart is still so soft and throbbing while still caring so deeply about his line of work. And he has to sit in the dissonance and the tension of all of those competing threads together and feeling the guilt of all of it all at once too. And it's an incredibly human experience to have to fight these competing threads and not knowing how to make it all work. I think that's what makes Tony Soprano so captivating too. It's that same push pull in every direction and feeling like everything's pulling you in 10 million directions. And they're in that vulnerable place of finding hopefully a way to make everyone happy, to make it all work, to make themselves feel like they can do it all.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this on Movies and Us and you are interested in hearing our thoughts on Tony Soprano,
Nice.
we are reviewing The Sopranos over on our other podcast, TV and Us. So go check it out. We're on Sopranos season 2 right now. So there's quite a few episodes to catch up on if you're into Tony Soprano. Um, yeah, I love that. And the other like flip side of the coin with Neil, I appreciate the way that this film shows that his life is not glamorous. Like there's a lot of like detail work that he has to do, but he also struggles to have relationships because of this you need to be able to walk away in 30 seconds thing
Mhm.
that he has ordered his life by. And so I appreciate that the film goes out of its way to show that loneliness and that emptiness that he experiences because he's chosen to be excellent in his line of work. That means that these other parts of his life have to be deficient in some way, and you
Mhm.
feel that trade-off and that push pull in him. And at the same time he does have these close relationships with his friends, and so I like that there's that complexity with this character, that he is a loner, but he also can have relationships, but he chooses not to because he's dedicated to his job, which is not a glamorous thing. Like, it's just, that's a fun take on, this mastermind criminal that we're so used to seeing in a lot of TV and movies.
Mhm. And the film does an amazing job very early on at a lot of those party scenes, the dinner sequences of allowing us as the audience to feel that like gnawing sense of loneliness that that character is experiencing when he's surrounded by all of his friends and his crew with all of their spouses and they look so happy and he's just like, okay, well maybe let me go call that girl because man, I kind of want that too, you know. And there's an amazing way that the film has shown us that he feels that without him ever having to say it. But like he looks incredibly vulnerable in that scene too, of like looking around at everyone and stealing away in the middle of dinner to like catch his breath a little bit and feel what he's feeling. So that's unconventional to see when we usually get to see criminals that are competent, confident, and they're all in control. They've got everything figured out. They're handing out orders to their team, but not this side of them. That's just like, what am I doing this all for again? Like, maybe I want a different life. Run away to New Zealand.
That's my other thing. Like, why New Zealand? Like, I did not look into it, but I'm pretty sure that you could get extradited from New Zealand. So, like, that's maybe not your
Yeah.
best place to hide, but whatever, Neil, you keep dreaming. New Zealand seems cool.
Right.
Why not?
Right. Should we talk about the female characters for a hot
Oh,
sec? As
yes,
fellow
we have to.
females, we've got feelings about how female characters are depicted, especially in films from decades past.
I just I knew it wasn't going to be great because it is an action film from the 90s. So I was trying to like set my expectations low. And I think for the most part, like, the issue that I have is the character of Edie because
Yes.
none of her decisions make sense. I feel like
Yeah, there
Justine,
too. Yeah,
Ashley Judd's character, like the other women, cool. I
they're
understand
pretty
what they're
great
doing,
for the
makes
90s.
sense. Yeah, very, very good. Solid, holds up. Edie, ma'am, I understand that you're lonely. This is not the business. Like, the oh god, it was so rough to watch. There's just no chemistry at all between these two very good actors. We see them interact only a few times and it's awkward as hell every time. And I'm just like, there's nothing about this. And I don't know, maybe people were more trusting in the 90s, but like, you talk to this dude and you're like, yes, I have fallen in love with you. I've seen you 2 times and now I'm going to New Zealand with you after learning that you are a criminal. Like, I'm sure that there are some women out there that would do that. I don't think that is a majority opinion though. Like, I needed something more to believe that. I believe for Neil's character, all of his actions. I don't believe any of Edie's character's actions.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the things that I struggled with in this film was none of her decisions made any sense to me. And so I think that is the weakest part of the film, I think, for me. And if that character's decisions had made sense in some way, then this film would be like 10 out of 10. But because her choices make no sense,
Hmm.
I was like, I am taken out of this film, but better than I expected it to be. But Edie made no sense.
Yeah. And we don't know anything about her other than she's a graphic designer, which is very cool, and like went to Parsons. Uh
Right?
and
So
then other than
cool.
that, all we know is that she likes Neil for
Yeah.
some
And
reason.
she's
It's
lonely.
also not like we got to see him like turn on his charisma in a way that is like undeniable. Like, of course, you would fall into his orbit. Like, I don't really buy that. De Niro's charisma is a different flavor, a different brand. Um, they have the most chemistry when she's mad at him. Like in that scene where
Yes.
she's like, "You're a criminal and you didn't tell me what." The most chemistry they've had the entire movie is her just like turned away
Yeah.
from him as he's like trying to get her back. Uh,
Yeah, it was the most believable part of the film.
yeah, yeah. And I like the idea of De Niro really doesn't know anything about her, just wants insert any woman into role here so that that is his ticket, that is his life that he can dream about, that's outside of this life of crime now. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I actually think the breakdown of his fantasy somehow, like him thinking that she's going to be loyal and then her turning her back at the very end, and now he literally has nothing left. Like, I think there's something there that could have been interesting, kind of the bursting of the bubble for him. We've seen De Niro play characters pining after women that he doesn't know anything about, but he just wants them. In Raging Bull, he can do it. He knows how to do it very well, you know. And that's the same dynamic that's happening here. The problem in the relationship is basically Edie's fascination with him and her willingness to go along with him. I actually think would also been interesting to weave in something around her saying yes out of fear and then ultimately betraying him in some way or running away in some way, but almost feeling pressure to. There's a lot of great commentary there around like the male female power dynamics that are at play and how him being a criminal like heightens that sense of fear and therefore complicitness that she has to have. um, all of that would have been interesting. So her character is what I expected most of the female characters would be like in this film from the 90s. I was actually pleasantly surprised, which probably isn't saying much, by how much agency Justine and Charlene both have in this film. They're calling things out in their men. They're making choices that are definitively changing the forward momentum of the plot. And that was nice to see. They spoke their mind, they had opinions and convictions, and they stuck to a lot of them. So I was like, wow, okay, very good. A female character is being portrayed as a whole human. Very good.
Our bar is so low.
On the ground.
It's yeah, it's in the basement, which is really really sad. But yeah, I had a great time, especially with
Same.
Justine. I want to know everything about this person.
Yeah,
Like, I just, how
so
did you
cool.
get this house? What is your profession? Because I was like, are you like an artsy fartsy kind of person? Just because she has that vibe. Like, she seems so cool. I want to know everything about her. We're not going to know, and that's fine. But yeah, I love how she stands up for herself. She also makes mistakes and then has to apologize for things. Like, she really is a three-dimensional character, which is nice to see in an action movie because you don't often get that. So
Mhm.
good job, Heat.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice to see. um, one of the things that I really loved one of the moments is in the third act of the film. There's a succession of a really great like window of time where many characters are making binary choices that feel like there are huge stakes to each of them that are then tossing us into the next moment. And I really, truly did not know what decisions characters were going to make. So, a great example of this is when Charlene is having to choose whether she's going to save or protect her husband. And at that point in the film, we don't know enough about this character and her mindset to know what she's going to do. But we know that the domino effect of that choice is going to lead into the next thing. Will Macaulay choose to go after Wingro, or will he choose to keep going to the airport? Another binary choice where kind of the road forks. But that Charlene choice I thought was so juicy. The way that it was shot with the camera work, her looking over her shoulder, seeing the cop kind of like pressuring her with him kind of blackmailing, like, hey, if you don't do this, your kid's gonna be screwed for life. And you feel the weightiness of the stakes that she's facing. And that character's pressed, and we get to see what comes out. And she chooses to protect her husband. And there's this look of knowing that they both have. And I thought that sequence was so well done. One of the most adrenaline pumping moments of the film for me, ironically, more than some of those other action sequences, because it really felt like so many lives were at stake from this one moment. And the rest of that third act was going to hinge on this one moment. And I loved that she got that moment.
Yeah, and that moment is set up because the cop is essentially like threatening her, and he goes through this whole long thing of like, if you don't give up your husband, then all of these bad things are going to happen to you. So I appreciated that explanation. It didn't feel like over the top, because it's serving the function of like threatening this really vulnerable woman and her child,
Yeah.
uh,
I love that.
while also setting the stakes for us as viewers, so we are aware of everything that is kind of informing her decision. And pretty much, I think in the movie all we've seen is volatility in that relationship. Like, we haven't seen the loving caring side of that relationship, which I also think makes us wonder, what is she actually going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then for her to be able to figure out a way to like subtly warn him, but we're still left with, did the cops buy that? Like, is she still
Mm-hmm.
going to get in trouble? Is she still going to go to jail? Because she seems to have cooperated, but she actually didn't. And that is an open ended question for us that we will never know the answer to. And I think that that is also brilliant to leave us wondering, what happened to her? What happened to this kid? We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And her also smart enough to know what cards are at play in her hand and how to play them well. She's not that like frenetic female character that's yelling and screaming and begging and stuff. No, she's like watching and seeing where she can maneuver and how, and strategically where to position and place herself, what she can and can't get away with, what the cops will believe or not believe. And she's like, you can see in her eyes, she's calculating every choice. And that's exciting to see, that this woman is basically like trapped on all sides from both the police and her criminal husband's gang. And she's trying to find the best positioning forward for her and her child. And she seemingly does an incredible job with it. So it's very satisfying to see.
Yeah. I think it's also fun that Val Kilmer's character is the only one that gets away. And
So good.
so it's just like, man, you just go right off into the sunset, my guy. But even that is a tragedy too,
Because they
because,
can't be together.
yep. And he wanted to be with his family and he can't be. And now all of his friends are dead. And so he has to go start a new life somewhere very, very far away. And so I appreciate that the entire movie is essentially a tragedy. I don't feel like you get a lot of action movies that are this tragic, but
Hmm.
it's also really satisfying at the same time. And that is a difficult balance to land. And he managed to do it.
Yeah, it's also a tragedy because of the family dynamics for every character that we get to see. It's actually not the outcomes of whether they were successful on their missions or not. It's actually, do they get to be with their loved ones in life or in death? I thought the scene with Trejo, whose wife was killed, and then he asks Macaulay to kill him so that he's not living a life paralyzed for the rest of his life. His tragedy is that he dies, but it's also he chooses to die because his wife's no longer alive. He has no reason to live anymore. So we also get to see him in his final moments in relation to his family and that love and that he had for his wife. And arguably he got to live the life that both Macaulay and Hannah like wanted to live. Like he seemingly had it all, but I guess his tragedy is that his life is cut short, and both him and his wife are no longer here. And so, yeah, everyone is like almost in their final moments before we leave them, defined in relationship to their family life, not just their criminal life or their professional life. That's notable.
Yeah. Again, not something that we usually see because normally
Yeah.
it's just about the
Did they do it or
person
not?
and what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I that wider scope of the people in their orbit and the relationships and the people closest to them help. I mean that's just real life too, is we learn so much about who a person is based on their relationships and the people that are closest to them.
Yeah.
And it's the same with these characters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Other notable moments or choices from this film?
I was once again bringing too much logic to the table, because I was constantly wondering how do they have so much funding available for Hannah to have multiple surveillance crews, multiple helicopter
He's in a
rides just
helicopter.
willy nilly? Like, how in the world are we paying for this? How did you get this approved for like three dudes who were murdered? Like, come on now.
Yeah.
I don't buy this.
When he was in the helicopter at the end, I was like, okay, homeboy's like riding in style at the with the there's like at least two or three also here in the background
Mhm.
talking to his crew with some nice fancy headset. I'm like, it's not like Macaulay is the criminal of decades that we've been trying to catch
Right?
for who like staged a coup at the White House. Like this is
Yeah.
just a dude who stole some stuff from like a few banks, perhaps
Yeah.
killed a few dudes.
Yeah. Like, it's like this the math is not mathing for this.
It does not math, but does it make for some great set pieces? Yes, we love to
Yes,
see it.
you enjoy that helicopter, Al Pacino. You have a fun time with that.
There also seems to be like no other crimes happening in the city because every time something happens, there's at least like 7 police cars that are available to show up within seconds because we need to do a big shootout, guys. So like we need lots of cars and lots of cops. One of the scenes I absolutely loved is how long that bank robbery shootout scene is. Like the sound design is incredible. The way we hear bullets differently when we are up close next to the cars, next to the guns, or in a wide shot. Just how we move from place to place and are boxed in at a certain moment and then we're moved to the park. Like there's just so many phases to that sequence. And I just loved how long it lasted while still keeping the action and adrenaline compounding and building on each other. It did not feel tedious at all. It felt like seconds passed, and I realized it had been minutes. But everything about the cinematography, the sound design, the close-up shots, cutting to the editing, it's gold. It's so good. That scene needs to be studied for sure.
Yeah, it's so good. And something that we often complain about in action movies is that it feels unrealistic. And that is not the case in that shootout scene in Heat. Just obviously this was made before John Wick, but I kept thinking about John Wick while watching that scene, and the way that there's this emphasis on practical effects and trying to make sure that something as kind of big and explosive as a shootout scene feels grounded. And that's something that Heat does so well. And the way that especially the criminals are moving as they're under fire, I think is just absolutely fascinating and thrilling to watch. So yeah, I am not a big like shootout person. For me it was too long, just because I don't care for listening to bullets for minutes on
Yeah.
end. But even with that, it is an absolutely thrilling scene. And I was just amazed. Again, this came out in 95. Like,
Yeah.
that this looks
So good.
this good. It's so precise. It's so well done. I was blown away by it.
Yeah. And one of the details in that scene, it actually ends the sequence, is Hannah choosing to take the shot at the man who was holding the little girl. Wow. Usually you see them point the gun, breathe in, breathe out. You always can hear them breathing as they're trying to focus. And they always choose not to, out of protection for the little girl, obviously. But the sheer confidence with which Hannah has in his aim to fire an aim at this man holding the little girl like inches from his head is like tells you everything you need to know about who Hannah is as a character. Like who Vincent Hannah is in his competence and his confidence and his assurance of self, in the willingness to even risk that. That is a character for defining moment for who Vincent Hannah is. And I thought that was so fascinating and notable. And again, subverts our expectations a little bit too.
And again, the whole time I'm going, how much trouble is he going to be in? Because that is probably not what you're supposed to do. That seems like a
Right.
bad choice. All of the millions of dollars in property damage that they all caused because they were just like, so again, I'm over here in like the logical camp going, this feels like not the right choice for anyone. But yeah, that final scene, I love that the criminal dude, he turns and he sees Hannah, and then it
Right.
happens. So that moment of knowing, even though he has sunglasses on so we can't like fully see his face, that moment
Yeah.
of knowing, and he's like, ah, crap. It is my time. And it was his time. So again, just so satisfying, even though I was like, wait a second. I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
this makes sense, but I am satisfied and entertained. So let's keep going.
Yep, yep. But you, meanwhile, are the police commissioner back at home base being like, you did what?
Yes, that is me. I'm like, give me your gun and your
No,
badge. You are not allowed to have these things anymore because you are making bad decisions.
no more helicopters for you, my guy. Like,
No.
nice try. You
How much
still
is this
haven't caught
costing
this
me?
dude, okay?
Yes, and there's this other murderer running around willy-nilly killing women. What have you done on that case? Focus on
I
that.
know.
Stop with the helicopter business.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I was thinking about that a lot during the film. I was like, we've got two layers of crime happening here, and obviously there's one that's alluring to chase after, but I'm like, yo, Waingro's just still walking around town. Like this is revealing the priority that we have on cases that are high pri versus not in this day and age. Uh, the prostitute's dying. That's fine. Apparently, that was notable. I'm so glad that they didn't leave that as an open thread and wove it back in at the end because I would have been very upset otherwise. Um,
mhm.
I have one last two shout outs that I want to give before we wrap. One is Val Kilmer, a legend. He is electric on screen. Every time he's in a scene, I could not look away. There is this raw, brooding energy around about him, and we see moments where he explodes. But in the moments that he's calm, it feels like something is about to explode at any given moment. And so, shout out just to Val Kilmer, who is a legend of our time. Who does an incredible job. He is electric on screen. So I want to give a shout out there. And then I really loved a lot of moments when the score was doing some work. There's some great yearning electric guitar moments for the night sequences. There's lots of really great frenetic, heavy beat pacings for the action sequences. So I just think the score actually adds so much to the almost melancholy atmosphere of Heat that is very much a part of what Heat's trying to do. So those are my two quick shout outs. What about you?
Um, it's not a shout out. It's I don't know how to classify this because it's not a qualm, but um I did not believe that Robert De Niro was a man called Neil. There is no way that the person of Robert De Niro is Neil. No way. I once Robert De Niro signed on to the project, you needed to change this man's name. Neil? No. I'm sorry. I can't buy it. I cannot buy Neil.
It's definitely more of a Johnny or like
There's lots of other names to choose from. Neil, not one of them.
not a
When
Neil.
he
He's not a
said that was
Kevin.
his name,
He's not a lot of things.
he's not a lot of things. That's true. But when he said Neil, I busted up laughing. I was like, that's a
Mhm.
fake name. That is not for
Yeah.
real his name. But it was. So that was one note that I had of Neil. Really? We look at Robert De Niro and we think Neil? I don't buy
There were
it.
a couple moments earlier in the film where characters are talking about Neil, and I
Mhm.
literally for a few times was just like, "Who is Neil again? Oh, that's Neil." Because they're like, "Oh, well, we need to go find Neil," and I'm like, "Who's Neil?" Oh, right. Got it.
Yeah, so in my notes it's just Robert De Niro
Yeah, yeah.
because he is not Neil. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I didn't buy that.
I think Pacino is. I don't think he's a Hannah kind of last name guy. Vincent, yes. Last name
Yes.
Hannah, maybe not so much.
I guess for a shout out, I want to give a shout out to Al Pacino and his unhingedness in this film.
The TV scene.
The TV scene, the she's got a great ass scene. Like, there's so many moments where I
It's
was
so
like,
good.
this is like a next level of unhingedness, and I am
Yeah,
here for it. I am eating it all up with a spoon. I'm also
so
terrified
fun.
at the same time. So just shout out to everything that he was doing in this film. He's so over the top.
Yeah. He's so good in this.
Mhm.
Even the scene where he is like cool, calm, and collected, confident, yelling out commands. I'm like,
Yes.
yes, we love a leader with clarity. Like the
Yeah.
instructions were razor sharp. I'm like, and then the next minute he's losing his mind. And you're like, oh, that's why you got to do this thing over here so it can be okay over there. I see. Um, it's so funny. He like young Al Pacino like nailed the like blazing look in his eye that he did for
Mhm.
Michael Corleone, and you see that in moments in Heat where I'm like, there it is.
Yes.
Yeah, you perfected that way back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Great use of that here.
A transferable skill, you know? It works in The Godfather, it works in Heat.
Works in Heat. He, someone somewhere had a great time writing that TV scene. I've got to say too. Someone was just
Yeah.
like, it's been a long while in this movie. It's been pretty tense. Give the audience a little something. Let's have him kick the TV out of his car in the middle of the street because it's a symbolic of his failed marriage. Yeah, we need an angry kick.
I was, again,
So cute.
I'm here being like, what
So
if you're
endearing.
the car behind him and now you have to like swerve to avoid the TV? These poor like people here just like waiting for the bus and they see this like broken TV. Like, again, I was like, what are we doing with
It's
this
so
TV
good.
now? But the film has moved on, but I'm still there in the intersection with this TV of what do we do
So
with
funny.
this?
I loved that scene. It was so endearing to me. He also looks like a little kid because you can see that like
Mm-hmm.
that was satisfying. Like he was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel better now.
Yep.
Like it scratched the itch. It hit so good. Uh so yeah, I was satisfied watching it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so fitting for the character and just
Who's lost his
perfect
mind? Yeah.
Pacino performance.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was our very fun review and discussion of 1995 Heat. You best believe we're going to be sat for Heat 2. Lots of incredible stars in that one. They are spending their money where they need to get some good actors to like. I think that's going to be a hit, hopefully, at the theaters too. So, yeah, great choice, Sarah. Your Oscar wager winning spoils. And this was a really fun time. All right. Well, we have got a whole year of movies ahead of us before there will be another Oscar wager next year where I'm coming for your crown. But until then, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up here on the feed. Lots of new releases coming out now that we are out of Oscar season, and very much going to be covering a lot of the new stuff that's coming out soon. Lots of fun blockbusters on the horizon I see as we head into spring and summer territory, and some throwbacks too we'll weave in. So, all right, we'll see y'all very soon on the feed. Have an amazing week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Movies and Us. We are part of the Movie Archer podcast network, so check out moviearcher.com to learn more.
Our name sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories.
You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating review letting us know your thoughts about today's episode.
Connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Movies and Us Pod, or email us at moviesanduspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us.
We hope you have an amazing week, and we can't wait to see y'all very soon.